Let's talk about this US election, what to watch, and what it all means. Starting with the way Americans pick their president. We'll tell you about the battleground states to look out for, why the Senate race is so important, and what could happen if Trump or Biden refuse to accept defeat.
Will you commit here today for a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens.
We're in uncharted territories every single day.
Throw in a pandemic, and you could say there's never been a US election like it. So here's a primer to help get through it all and prepare us for what might happen next. This election has been one big roller coaster with all kinds of drama right from the beginning.
You would normally have candidates having a very full schedule, holding rallies, holding campaign stops.
And they have just announced that there will be no audience for that debate.
The Democratic Party has taken the party out of the Democratic National Convention.
Mail-in voting is becoming much more important.
RBG's death has electrified the presidential election campaign.
President Trump just tweeted moments ago that he and the First Lady have tested positive for the coronavirus.
There's been a lot of craziness, and there might still be more. So let's take things a step at a time. The first thing to get your head around is how Americans are going to be choosing their next president. Yes, people will vote for either Donald Trump or Joe Biden, but it's ultimately the Electoral College that decides who wins. That college is made up of 538 electors. They're people chosen from each state. The number of electors each state gets depends on how many members of Congress it has. So California has 55, but Vermont only has 3. Now, whether a state's electors are Republican or Democrat depends on which candidate gets the most votes in that state. So let's take California as an example. Say a majority of Californians vote for Joe Biden. He wins the popular vote there. In that case, all of California's 55 electors are going to be Democrats. It's winner takes all, no matter how small the majority. Those 55 Democrat electors are then obliged to vote for Biden. To become president, Trump or Biden has to get at least 270 electoral votes. That's just over half. So it's the Electoral College that matters, not winning the popular vote. And 2016 is a good example of that. Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin by a total of just under 80,000 votes. But he ended up getting all 46 electoral votes in those 3 states. It helped him cross the 270 mark to win, even though Hillary Clinton got more votes overall, nearly 3 million more.
In almost every presidential election, the winner of the national popular vote has also won the Electoral College. What happened in 2016 was extremely rare.
Whether the Electoral College is better or worse than just a straightforward popular vote is debated basically every 4 years. But the system is written into the US Constitution, and that's hard to change.
The Electoral College was originally conceived by our founders to make sure that small states still had a voice, that the power was not concentrated in large states.
The reality today, though, is that political parties still focus on a handful of states, just not necessarily the big ones. They're known as battleground states, where the races are tight. Most states tend to vote Republican or Democrat, but some states, well, they have a history of swinging either way. Or maybe they have a diverse range of voters.
Over here, where the city part of Scranton is, everybody's for Biden. But once you go out maybe 10, 15 minutes towards the farms, a lot of Trump supporters over there.
Pennsylvania is actually Joe Biden's home state. Voters there backed Barack Obama in 2012, but in 2016 it swung for Trump. Wisconsin's another one. It was the big surprise of 2016. Wisconsin hadn't voted Republican since 1984. Clinton didn't even campaign there, and Trump ended up winning by just 23,000 votes. And there are others. Arizona's a question mark this year because while it's reliably Republican, in the recent midterm elections, a Democrat won the Senate race there. Then there's Florida. It's got 29 electoral votes, and it's fickle.
I really do believe that Biden's going to win. The last 3.5 years have been horrible.
We will accept whatever Trump is. Better a jerk than a communist.
But But there's a lot more going on than just the presidential contest. There are governor jobs, state and local offices up for grabs, and the congressional races. Winning the most seats in Congress is important because Republicans and Democrats can push through policies they like and block ones they don't. In the House of Representatives, all the seats are up for re-election. Right now, the Democrats have a comfortable majority. They want to keep it that way. Same for the Republicans in the Senate, but their majority is slim. A third of seats are being contested this year. It's why there has been a big push by both parties to get everyone voting. And many Americans aren't waiting for November 3rd.
Many people are starting to take advantage of early voting and mail-in ballots.
Because of the pandemic, more states have allowed people to post their votes. Turnout is expected to be big.
We are likely to see more voters in an election than ever before in American history.
With interest up and both parties incredibly polarized, right now we already expected this to be a record-breaking election.
But if you're planning to sit down to hours of TV coverage or stay glued to social media to find out who's won on election night, you could be waiting days, maybe weeks. Usually we get unofficial results on the night that give us a pretty good idea of who's won. But the long process of counting all those votes is going to take even longer this year, mainly because of so many mailed ballots.
And if the margins are very, very slim in some states, those late-coming ballots might be the difference. It's much more important to be accurate than to be fast.
What happens in the meantime, that's what some people are worried about, because things could get messy. President Trump has said over and over again that those mailed-in ballots could lead to fraud, and he might not accept a defeat.
Mail ballots are a very dangerous thing for this country because they're cheaters.
Several top Republicans, though, have played down the idea that the president won't concede. Trump's press secretary said the same, though she left some wiggle room.
The president will accept the results of a free and fair election.
But the Democrats say it's the president who's trying to undermine the election.
Don't pay any attention to what the president is saying, because it is all designed to suppress the vote.
This is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate.
If there is any dispute, it could end up in the Supreme Court. That's what happened in 2000.
Stand by. CNN right now is moving our earlier declaration of Florida back to the too close to call column.
Al Gore and George W. Bush couldn't agree who won in Florida. It was that close.
The decision came late, and it came in several parts. Defeat for the Gore campaign.
That's why the recent death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been such a big political story. She was a liberal judge, and Trump wants to replace her with a conservative one. That's important because those judges could end up being the kingmakers, deciding who becomes president, if it comes to that. Whatever happens, the president's term officially ends in 2021, on January 20th at noon. That's Inauguration Day.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Richard Nixon.
I, Jimmy Carter.
I, George Walker Bush.
Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
If there's still no winner by then, and this would really be unprecedented, a few things could happen. Some people are suggesting Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, is meant to take over. Another theory is that the House should hold a vote. That actually happened with Thomas Jefferson in the 1800s. The hope is that we don't get to that point.
We have to be patient and let the process play out. That means the process is working. Do not allow anyone to fill that vacuum of information with disinformation that says you should distrust the process.
Trust is important. And the US has a pretty solid track record when it comes to free and transparent elections. Americans are proud of their democracy, even if some feel it's being tested. We hope that was a useful starting point to understanding what's going on with the US election. As always, we've got all the latest twists and turns covered on AlJazeera.com and on our social media pages. That's where you can find all of our episodes too. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week.